Our last request comes from Venomation. It's on a movie that I have actually kept on my hard drive for years, waiting for an opportunity to review it, and that day is now. It's MVP, Most Valuable Primate.
I feel so happy, and it blows my mind that we can be the best of friends. I can feel it everywhere.
To think I'm covering another Air Bud-like movie without actually covering Air Bud. And with how much I keep getting sidetracked or forced to push things back, I might not ever get to this season. Might have to wait until after I begin semi-retirement. But anyway, what's MVP? Well, obviously it's another monkey movie, by which I obviously mean ape since we have a chimpanzee, but how much you want to bet they'll use monkey anyway? In any case, what's important to know is that this is from the same creative minds that brought us the Air Buddies, their many sequels, and the all-craptastic dog monkey movies that try to be funny for the kids and possibly show their anti-cat biases. Robert Vince, you and your family, assuming they are related to you, cannot make even decent family movies. I think even Illumination could do better in that department, and they have their own problems. Only other noteworthy thing to mention is how Disney originally produced this movie with Keystone Family Pictures before pulling out. I suppose it's one thing to distribute these bad movies under their Buena Vista name, but producing is a whole other story. This thing even made it to theaters, and I can only assume it bombed since I certainly don't see how it succeeded in any other way. With that, let's highlight the MVP and see what went wrong. We open at the San Pablo University in San Diego, California, where we enter what looks to be Corny's room? I mean, it's not, but I get the vibe nonetheless. Waking up to the alarm nearby is our title chimp, Jack. He's played by 3 different chimps, Bernie, Louie, and Mac, who outside of the first sequel movie, yes, there are sequels to MVP, some were also in the Chris Isaacs show. Either way, we're dealing with a real chimpanzee that is played up as being intelligent enough to have his own room while implying he had parents. And sure, they play up this morning routine as cute and funny, but just remember, chimps can be very aggressive and are incredibly strong. I'm just saying, there's a reason they had to cancel Gordy's home. I suggest not looking it up unless you're an adult. Trust me. We also meet Jack's caretaker, Dr. Kendall, played by Lomax Study, who has been teaching him sign language and often showcases his research to college graduates. At the same time, we move over to Nelson, Canada, where we meet the Westover siblings, Stephen and Tara. Stephen is played by Kevin Zegers, who besides playing Jim Hawkins in Peter Rose's Treasure Island movie, he was Josh Fram in most of the Air Bud movies, meaning he's playing another kid who needs an animal companion to deal with his sports-related issues. As for his sister, played by Jamie Renee Smith, she's deaf and is shown to have problems making friends. It doesn't help that her classmates aren't really aware that she's deaf, since they did have an invite for her, but they just tossed it in the air and Tara didn't even see it. I will say, I'm glad at least one of the parents knows sign language and makes effort to use it like it's a normal thing.
They tease me. I know it. I know, sweetie.
As for Steven, we'll later see that he joins his school's hockey team, the Nuggets, which is one of those teams that constantly loses and the players are very rough and consist of bullies. Clearly, they'll both need this chimp once he gets roped in somehow. Anyway, seems the doctor is a little frustrated that Jack acts like a chimp rather than a genius that he supposedly is. Of course, he's considering returning Jack to the nature preserve he came from, especially since it turns out they're cutting his research funds, so it probably wouldn't be good to keep Jack on any longer when he can be with his family. Otherwise, he seems to have fun with this one maintenance worker, Darren, played by Russell Ferrier. Why are the garbage bags just laid about like that? Who cares? Monkey Madness is back! Well, it's more subdued this time, especially once they start heading to bed. Darren reads Jack a bedtime story, and over at Kendall's house, he's reading his own book while drinking milk. Clearly, this is a peaceful scene.
He died? And this is supposed to be a kid's movie.
Seriously, I know they were kinda hinting at there being something wrong with him, but he just flat out died without warning. Is this related to anything major? Not really. If anything, he isn't able to call Julia, the nature preserve lady, to finalize the transaction to send Jack home, which also means that the dean of this school, Dr. Peabody, played by Oliver Muirhead, can go with his plans to sell Jack to the University of Tennessee for money.
Isn't that where they're doing hepatitis testing?
Oh!
I'm not sure. It's only a rumor.
Why, that bastard. Planning to have Jack subject to animal testing? We can't have that. Through the subtitles, we can see that Jack wants to go home, which Darren gets since he knows a little sign language. However, it's clear that man is not the smartest thing in the room. Seen here when he takes Jack to the train station via luggage bag.
Hang on, Jack. We're almost at the station and you're doing a really good job. And I'm really proud of you.
You freaking idiot! Even worse, he just leaves Jack in the bag and trusts that he'll get off at the right stop instead of going with him to ensure he gets home. Yes, Jack is intelligent enough to know how the train works, but he's still a wild animal and could probably panic or do something unless you're there to calm him down. Of course, this is a kid's movie, so really that's never going to happen. But something else will that really should have you being chaperone. Meanwhile, Steven and his team are on a losing streak. It doesn't help that the home team they're facing has fans that will willingly break rules and throw things like eggs at the players for daring to try and score. It doesn't help either that the ref is totally for this. I suppose it does say something about how referees tend to have biases and will willingly screw the rules when it comes to their favorite teams. Not saying they're all like that, but it's clear that Steven is tired of being pushed around, since if no one else is going to treat them seriously or show any kind of respect for the sport, why should he? His sister disapproves, and I guess she's the only thing keeping him from completely falling apart. Back over to Jack. After a day of monkey business and mulling over the picture of his family, he sleeps through the announcement for his stop. Not that it would matter. How was he going to get off the train? Was there even someone there to pick him up? Maybe this is why you should have stayed with him, Darren. He realizes too late that he's in Nelson now, and I guess all it takes for him to get out is to be the last passenger and the conductor being a distracted dumbass. Judging from the decorations, this must be December, meaning this is technically a Christmas movie. Yet the town is surprisingly devoid of people. It can't be that late, or else why would the Westover siblings be out at night?
How many kids do you know that can speak 2 languages and lip read, huh?
I get you're trying to cheer her up, but where are your parents? I'm afraid the locals might try and hurt you with how overly committed to hockey they are. I mean, if they even bother showing up since it's a real ghost town. Tara sees Jack watching her, meaning they'll definitely get together soon. But for now, Jack has to hide out in this treehouse he comes across, complete with a bed and everything. And it just so happens to be right near where Steven practices his puck shots. But more importantly, Tara has a banana, so... Because as we all know, chimps only eat bananas. And of course, Jack gives himself away.
What's the matter? What happened? Did you see a monkey in the woods?
What did I tell you? It's always monkey and never ape. If the movie doesn't care, why should I? Meanwhile, at the university, Peabody finds out that Jack never arrived at the University of Tennessee. Which is weird since you would think with what Darren did, he would already know that Jack went missing. Who did he assign to take Jack to begin with, and why didn't they tell him he was gone? He immediately accuses Darren, and in typical bad guy manner,
I'll find that ship if it's the last thing I do! Ugh.
Tara does some investigation work to look for where Jack is or where he came from. She realizes he's hiding in the treehouse since his stuff is here, and not before long. Well, I don't know what you were expecting to happen. As she wakes up, she learns that Jack can use sign language and attempts to make friendly contact with him. Friendship. Back with Steven, he gets fed up with everyone goofing around, especially when he hears why they don't even bother.
We don't have plans to turn the country on a hockey scholarship.
Yeah, Wonder Boy. My next job's gonna be in Moose Job pumping gas at my uncle's station.
Yeah, and I'll be on the farm in Speedy Creek tossing hay.
That's what happens when you're passed up by the scouts.
Well, at least you could go out with a little bit of pride, not look like a bunch of losers. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, with how awful the people can be towards them, it's not hard to see why they would be demoralized. And yeah, I suppose it's also true that you shouldn't weigh people down with your frustrations and have more pride for the sport you were willing to take part in. I mean, when Steven joined, it was at the start of the season. That would mean you guys willingly rejoin a team that you knew was constantly losing and could have just quit to focus on your future endeavors. But no, clearly you want to goof off. It's hockey! At least try and kick some ass! At least one player gets it, as does the coach, who has a name, but screw it. Tara brings Jack home and offers to hide him in her room. Be a lot warmer than the treehouse. This also means funny monkey business, like when he goes to the bathroom but has to wait for Steven, who, Why? Who does that? And sure, Monkey's gotta have his coffee and cereal, but he's just asking to get caught. Sure enough, Steven spots him and thankfully doesn't freak out. I guess he realized that Tara was right, so now he's gotta live with the fact there's a monkey in the house.
Jack. The monkey you saw in the woods.
I wanted to surprise everybody.
Tara, chimps are not something you surprise people with. Again, Gordy's home. Jack asks Steven to lend him his ice skates, since he wants to try skating too. And through some background music, he ends up learning to do it well. I suppose unlike Air Bud, the animal actually has to learn and isn't a prodigy at heart. Next step is teaching him how to play hockey.
Nice shot. With practice, you'll actually hit the net.
He did hit the net. Mother Westover is holding some women's meeting at her house. I mean, either way, it means Jack can't come down, but then maybe the kids should take him out to play so you can avoid the obvious thing that's gonna happen? Can't sneak him out the window since he can easily climb down? Well, no. At least, not the kids' window, but a different window, and... And somehow, no one else saw this. Later, Steven is at another game, and it seems like this time his teammates are a little more motivated, since one guy decides to tackle another guy who has the puck, and another actually scores. Jack, after finding his way to the arena, sneaks in and decides for no real reason to put on a hockey uniform.
My preparation, just the side of me.
This must be a funny scene, since he clearly doesn't know better. And wait, the uniform has the name Rybczynski? Chimp! It's in the name. Well, he finds his way in, and despite Tara pretty much saying, "No, don't go in there," he totally does.
He's just intercepted a pass, and he is flying down the wing. Wow.
You guys fast.
For once, you would think the ref would say something if this one skater wearing another player's uniform just jumped in without warning, but no. This is the part where people just allow this to happen. Oh sure, they do question after the fact he ties the game with his first shot, and then they actually rectify the score since he's clearly not a real player. Just get Richard Gant or Bill Cobbs to say there's no rule that a monkey can't play hockey, and you'll be fine. Hell, even the coach seems to understand that maybe having the monkey play for them would be a good thing, because given how the people reacted, this would make ticket sales.
Technically, he's a chimp. Yeah, but they say that the chimp is our closest relative.
You may have a point there.
Of course, they act stupid about it, but at least they have an actual reason to accept Jack on the team. And thankfully, the Westovers get over the fact that they have a monkey living with them now, meaning Jack can actually be part of the team. I guess no other hockey officials care when it comes to this one team using a wild animal for a teammate, so better hope it doesn't end up like in Big and Hairy, because now that Jack is here, they start playing like they're really good. Oh, and Jack totally makes a monkey out of...
Jack is making a monkey out of the Viking defenseman.
Hey, I was just saying that. They win the game. So that's one thing Jack helps out. Now it's Tara's turn to be helped. Jack goes to school with her because they have show and tell, and things go well for her. Now that they've both benefited from the chimp helping them, that means we need to have our separation arc soon because we have a half hour of film left. But first, Steven helps out their goalie named...
Magoo, you're a goalie. You can't see, can you?
Oh, and Jack helps around town and wins them more games. They celebrate Christmas, and this really does feel like a retread of Air Bud. They even win enough games to make it to the Harvest Cup. However, footage of their last game ends up on TV for Peabody to see, so now he knows where he is. Back with Jack, Tara learns about where Jack came from and now wants to help him get home. But for now, it's off to Vancouver for the big game.
Man, totally sure ain't Kansas anymore.
I get the reference, but it's weird coming from a Canadian in this context. Eventually, we get to the game, and even with Jack out, they struggle against the Bears. They're only down a point, but they are in trouble. Tara, on the other hand, runs into Peabody's goons asking about where Jack is. Peabody follows her to the team and demands Jack back, but they won't let them. The second period starts and our heroes make a comeback, but now Peabody is planning to steal Jack once the game is over. Since Tara can lip read from afar, she knows what he's going to do, and so they need to come up with a plan. Revealing to Steven about where Jack lives, the idea is to swap Jack with Tara since she happens to be about his height, and trick everyone into believing she's him, while the real Jack is sent home. This time, Steven accompanies Jack, while the players do what they can to win. It gets intense when the puck is literally on the goal line, and there's a lot of players wrestling each other to get the last goal. So it's Tara with the dive.
It's in!
Ah, wait, that's clearly not Jack. No goal! Peabody is made a fool of, and then we see Steven seeing Jack off at an airport.
You're on your way home. Where you belong. With your family. See you later, Kay.
There's still 2 movies after this. Steven goes back to celebrate with his team, while Jack hams it up on the flight home. Steven even receives a sponsorship to join a professional team.
Jack! Buddy, where you been?
I don't know, why didn't you just take Jack here with you and start a new life like you clearly are now? Happy monkeys are happy. The end. Alright, in all honesty, this wasn't as bad as I was expecting it to be. It wasn't well received by critics, so I thought maybe I would feel the same. But honestly, it's not the worst thing Vince has done. At most, it often feels like they want to redo Air Bud with how an animal takes part of a losing sports team while motivating the main character. And while I do need to re-watch that movie to really affirm what I remember of it, I think with Air Bud, they at least make it a constant plot thread. Whereas this movie resolves the character stuff in their own scenes without really crossing into the other plot point with the villain, who's pretty much wasted and doesn't even get his comeuppance in the end. In that sense, it almost feels boring that they don't mix these elements together to form a complex narrative about needing to overcome difficulties with the aid of an animal friend, and just be very basic about everything. It could have been worse, the monkey shenanigans could have been as obnoxious as the Air Buddies like to have it, and they could have gone the route of Primate. Either way, you still end up with a real chimp that might hurt someone. That's a practice that I'm glad is slowly fading away as CGI is used to replace real animals. Better to be safe than sorry. Really, this isn't a good movie, but it's far from horrendous. This is just a bad attempt to try and recapture whatever spark they had with Air Bud, just with a different director. And they must have had plans since, again, 2 sequel movies were made. It really goes to show that even with Vince trying to capture the magic of someone else's work, he still can't learn or improve from there. I'm the Media Hunter. Media is my prey and reviewing them my way.